Do you have the time to listen to me? It's podcadzo.
I think there was some weird stuff going on that island. I think they got to look into that.
Kadzo
You
was
might
there.
be onto
That's not
something.
good.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought this is getting pretty fringe, but
We were there, but we were just
that timeline actually
Wow.
makes more sense.
yeah. That's about the age we were.
Well, I think we have all the tech set up. Thanks for filling the air, guys. I think
Yeah.
we're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start the pod after that.
Oh, let me do the sync.
Yeah.
Connor, no, please stop that. That's going to really screw everything up. Okay.
He really hates it when stuff happens over the sink.
All right. Well, oh yeah, I see the
Look at that
the zooming
cinematic
in
ass
having.
shot, dude. Oh my god.
That looks nice. What kind of camera do you have, Connor?
I'm just on an iPad.
Oh, it's your iPad.
It's not just zooming in. It's also like
Look, it
zooming
follows me.
up. It's like zooming up and then it's like panning up towards your
Is that a
face.
new iPad with the Apple AI?
No, this is a
does it?
button. This iPad still has a button.
Oh,
It's an old
button.
one.
No. Cool.
I'm just waiting for it to randomly like zoom all the way into your nose, and like you're gonna have no control over it. Also, I was reading up on podcasts. Apparently, it's really good to talk about visual things that people can't see.
This is a video podcast. This is how they do it now. This is in the age of YouTube, monetizing your YouTube videos.
yeah, Matt,
Podcasts.
welcome to the 2020s.
So all podcasts now are like video podcasts, and it's really annoying. I find it to be annoying.
I know.
You guys don't lean on it. Some podcasts now will like do things that just don't work in podcast
Yeah,
form.
you have
It's
to
like-
watch it to understand what's
I've
happening.
never
Yeah.
sat down in front of a computer screen and watched an entire podcast.
I don't know who would, but I think
Mm.
YouTube must just pay better than Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Some people just want to get that YouTube.
Yeah.
And you got to get the clips out. You got to get the TikTok clips
I think
out.
sometimes it's just about people not even being able to have a dense enough conversation to not need visual aids to go with it,
Mm-hmm.
and B, you can't really make clips for the internet without some sort of visual thing. So I
Yeah.
think that's really what it is. Podcasts are just taken over by the money machine, brother.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just have
You
the
said
cameras rolling to keep up with the Joneses. That's
And because I
basically it.
like looking at myself. I mean, who doesn't like looking at themselves? You know?
Hey,
But you guys told me you make like $40,000 a month off YouTube each,
Yeah.
Each.
just on
Yeah.
Kadzo.
That's after taxes.
And Connor, after
Yeah.
you do 10 episodes, we'll start cutting you in.
Do I start getting residuals, Podcadzo residuals?
Hey, well, we're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah,
no
we're
one
working
mentioned
out
that
the
to me
terms of your
beforehand,
contract.
so-
I'd like to have writing credit on my episodes.
Matt,
almost
you'll get $5,000 for this appearance.
Matt, I'm gonna
What?
give you all of Connor's writing credits for everything.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm
This
his fiduciary for sure. You guys were talking about
Excellent. Word.
advice earlier. I've noticed one thing about this podcast. You get kind of ramble at the beginning, and maybe that's, I don't know. It's just one thing I've noticed.
Well, we are all influenced by.
You guys ever heard of the Oreo method
by-
before? God
by a
damn it!
very
You're
random,
supposed
by
to
a
say
very
something
rambling
nice before
podcast.
the mean thing.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
well, I love the light up lava lamp mic in the middle of your table.
Thank you. That's a new addition.
It's a great
So you can
vibe.
hear us
Very.
Oh, I thought this was a Steely Dan.
We're calling it the Steely Dan.
You know what I mean?
Ooh,
Nice.
I like it. Like the dildo.
A dildo for the
thing you
listeners.
shove up inside your body.
Well,
Anywhere.
in the spirit of incorporating feedback, let's just put some
Let's
form
get right
on
to
this
the
and
point.
get right to it.
Yeah.
Everybody, welcome back.
Well, no, we have to introduce our guests.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
like, sorry.
All right, welcome back.
We're not supposed to speak before we're introduced. That was rude on our part.
Yeah, well, let's just start the pod here. Maybe you'll start with the stuff as a
No, that
cold
really
open.
shouldn't
We'll do
go-
the and stuff as open and then
Hold
Hold
start.
on now, let's talk about this. We don't need to really
Let's
let
figure
any
this
of that
out
be public.
in post,
Okay.
Julian.
You're gonna have to all on your ass tomorrow if you put that stuff in there.
True. Yeah.
Day the episode drops.
Julian's
They're
gonna
just jealous. They're like, "Damn, we
be
didn't
found dead
see you guys
under
there."
suspicious
We
circumstances.
Yeah.
All right.
You guys signed an NDA.
Yeah. Well, now we have no choice but to include stuff.
Okay.
Fuck! I accidentally said it again, didn't I?
Yeah. We did another
just how you
solid
fall
2
out of
minutes
windows.
on it. Yeah.
You want to fall out of a window, Colin? This is how you fall out of a window.
Yeah. Well, just don't put the stuff on TikTok.
Yeah.
Or you could just you could censor, you could bleep out whatever.
Bleep out. Okay.
Yeah.
There'll be a
Nobody
fair
will
amount
know.
of editing for me at the start
Nobody
of
will
this.
have. It'll just be Bleeps Island, and nobody will know what we're talking about.
We have to use context clues for that one together.
Read the lips.
Bleep out the too. For real,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to get shot.
That's
Hillary
actually
bleep.
gonna put us. Yeah. Hillary bleep and Bill bleep.
Bill bleep.
No one will possibly know who they were referring to.
Well, welcome back
Hey, they-
to Podcadzo, everybody.
Hillary
Very
Rodham.
special episode today.
Rodham.
We have returning guest Conor Sanders and brand new guest, first time caller, partial listener. Hopefully will one day be a return guest.
Decently long.
If this goes well, we certainly
Yeah.
hope it goes well and you will be a return caller. But Conor's older brother, I think it's fair to say older brother.
I
Matt,
think it's fair to say that.
cool. Matt
Okay with
Sanders,
it. I'll
everybody.
allow it.
Matt, thanks so much for
Go to a speech.
Yeah. Do you want to
Thanks for
introduce
having me.
yourself? Do you have a
Well-
blurb prepared?
I don't know. I have nothing prepared, so it would be awkward. So we should just keep going.
Matt, I told you to prepare for this.
Yeah.
I told you
You
to
hear that?
get
That's
a
dead
tight.
air. That dead air was your fault, Matt.
I told you to
shoot.
get a
You just keep
tight
talking. Okay.
5 to 8 minutes ready. Usually you start with a monologue.
Starting
All right.
now.
Well, I'll work on it for next time. Next time I'm on, I'll really have something ready to go.
Okay. Well, luckily I'm a professional, so I can fill the air with an introduction for Matt. Matt is, as we discussed, Conor's older brother. Always been his older brother, I think.
Is it fair to say that?
I think it's fair to say that.
I'd say for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah.
From the time Conor's been born, Matt has been his older brother.
Yeah.
Almost got you on a technicality there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
So Matt, by effect of being Conor's brother, was also in my social sphere when I was a young man hanging out with Conor. But Matt, as was mentioned, is older than me and Conor.
My age is greater than or equal to.
Yes.
A fun fact, a music related tidbit. If we're in for those, Colin's dad.
This isn't really the
was
podcast for those.
responsible for getting me into guitar. When I first wanted to play, he lent me Colin. He's like a sick collection. He lent me this like super nice guitar, and there's history. And now I have way too many guitars, so he maybe passed the disease on to me. But
now he's in the premier alt rock cover band on the south, at least the southern central coast of California.
that's true.
So.
And now I've really made it to the top, which is tribute cover bands.
Hell yeah.
And
Yes.
The circle is
Barbara.
complete because that's what my dad was doing at the time when he
It's kind of
introduced
true.
you into the guitar, probably. So let's table that for a second. We'll get into your band. But that's where I was going to bring it, actually, Matt. You being a little bit older, I remember my dad letting you borrow that guitar and you becoming really good at guitar. And he was kind of trying to teach me then. But as I've discussed on the pod before, like being young and having your dad kind of teach you something, it feels like a chore. So I wasn't
Lame.
practicing too much guitar. But then I saw Matt get like really good at. I remember when we lived in Fox Hills, going in the basement and hearing you shred all the time. I was like, oh shit, Matt's like getting really good at guitar. I guess you can do this. Like my dad's like actually taught him successfully or something.
Yeah.
And then Matt, I remember looking up to your band when you were in Colorado, Monroe Sky, correct?
Yep. Shout. And they're
Yep.
still playing in Fort Collins. We should give a shout out to Timberline. A lot of the same people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I know the
And
Timberline guys pretty well. So shout
Yeah.
out to them. For
good
sure.
kids.
Yeah.
Good kids. Yeah, that was definitely playing. If you guys, any musicians out there, just start a cover band. It's so much easier. It's so much easier. People already know all the songs. They already sing along. You get paid, actually.
Yeah.
You don't have to like pay to play shows.
You get booked.
Yeah, you get booked. Just sell out.
Matt Sanders, absolute champion of creativity here. Like, don't write songs, or we don't need any. There's plenty of songs out there. We don't need any more.
There's a lot, and a lot of the songs, that are already written, they're probably better than the songs you're gonna write. Whoever's listening to this, so chances are.
Man.
That's very true. I struggle with that a lot, actually. So Matt, when let's mention the name of your tribute or your cover bands. The last decade.
The last decade, yes. We're playing Southern California, and we do mostly 2000s and 90s covers. So a lot of pop punk. We kind of cover everything from pop punk to alt rock to a little emo punk to all of that. So it's actually
it's a huge range. Very
big range. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's awesome.
But it has been interesting. I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit too. Just like seeing the response that people have to a lot of these songs, and like the age groups that respond to like these old Green Day songs and Alkaline Trio and all that. It's like it's been a little eye opening. It has a much broader appeal, more staying power than I kind of would have thought like 10 years ago for like this range of music. And this was kind of like my jam for a lot of growing up, all of these bands. So,
and if I could interrupt, because Matt is humble, but the band is super good. They're all really good musicians. So I think that helps with a lot of the response of the crowd. Is not only do they play songs people know, but they play them super well. And
I'm sure
great singer, some great guitarists. So it's not like it's not like the easiest thing in the world. They're all very good musicians who have been playing for a long time. So
I remember when you first mentioned them, Connor, you said they're like a cover band with two of the most overqualified guitar players that you could imagine in such a cover band.
Yeah, and really almost at every position. The singer's great too, the bass player is awesome, and the drummer's really awesome too. So they really are all super talented. So that's why it sounds so good, and I think people want to see it.
Right on.
Cry.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, Matt, about the appeal to different age groups, because this past weekend went to a bar in Denver that happened to have a cover band playing at it, and it was a packed bar and definitely like a younger kind of college age, like I would describe as a slightly more bro-ish crowd. And when I entered the bar, the band was playing Zombie by the Cranberries, and every single person was screaming it at the top of their lungs, like people I wouldn't really expect to know the Cranberries. And then they went on to play like some Blink covers, a Green Day cover, things in that vein, and it was really connecting with the crowd.
Yeah, I think I mean, we talked a little bit about like the longevity of this, but I would not have thought that these songs would still be around. And it's just cool. I mean, I guess this is what pop punk is all about. This is growing up. Now we got to feel old about ourselves, but like,
yeah,
we're growing up and that music is like being passed along. And it's a lot of those other bands like are playing older stuff. I think people have like it's just a reaction to hearing it live. So yeah,
for sure. Well, and I guess this is worth mentioning if the audience has not figured it out yet. We are still in our punk rock block of episodes, and we wanted to have you guys on for this particular episode in the punk rock block because we are talking about pop punk today. Julian and I's idea was to kind of talk about Green Day separately and then get into pop punk from there, because Green Day, I think it's fair to say, looms large in all of our lives and is very important to pop punk. And it's a band we've been wanting to talk about more on the podcast. So I thought that's how we could kind of structure the episode, is start with a little bit about Green Day and then move it into pop punk.
Okay.
There can't be that many bands that have like spanned multiple genres like Green Day has, like starting in like punk and like having like legit punk creds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's like Green Day pre-American Idiot was its own super successful band, and like post-American Idiot, and like they were carrying the torch for a while, I think, with a lot of this, and like keeping like guitar focused music and like rock music like super in the forefront. So I can't think of many other bands that have like done that, like started one genre and then like almost started a second genre and then switched into that. Like it's pretty wild what they've done.
Like, even if they had never done American Idiot, Dookie was still like
Yeah.
one of the most successful albums of the entire '90s. So
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. Like 10 years after that, they did something totally different that was like equally successful.
Absolutely. And even like as successful as Dookie was in 94, I think if you had said to people at that time like, hey, this band will still be relevant like 30 years from now, not only relevant but like one of the biggest touring acts in the world, it would have blown people's minds. And it's just impressive they were able to do that.
Yeah. I think it's cool. It doesn't get talked about that much with many bands, but like Green Day is a good example of like almost everyone that I know that like I grew up with, it like Green Day was their favorite band at some point. Like Green Day was everybody's favorite band at some point or another. And I remember like in middle school going to see Green Day and like fanboying super hard for them, and then in high school kind of being like, well, that's it, like we're the last generation to connect with this. But then of course now we're seeing, you know, kids in middle school and younger still connecting to it, and yeah, it's 30 years old now, so
Absolutely.
longevity for that is insane.
So
plus with something like punk where it's so stripped down, like I think if you would have said it in 1992, like, okay, you're gonna be writing songs for 30 years, is like there's only so many songs you can write with 4 chords.
yeah,
Like you would be like, there's no way, but they still, and a lot of it is like the makeup of the band. We were talking a little bit yesterday, Connor, like the makeup of the band and the other members, and like there's so much more to it than a lot of these other bands that were big around the same time but didn't have the lasting power, the same longevity. Like it's crazy to see how many songs they've written, and a lot of them maybe, you know, do sound similar, but like they still somehow do manage, like their last album still pretty good and different. It doesn't feel like they're just like resting on their laurels. Like they're coming out with new stuff, which I couldn't write that many songs with 3 or 4 chords.
absolutely.
Again, that's why I'm in a cover band.
I think you could compare almost like like Dookie still being relevant almost is kind of similar to like the Blue album from Weezer. I think they were the same year, but both those albums seem of the time, but they also just songs off them people will still dance to 30 years later, just because they're just catchy and will always be relatable, especially with like Dookie as just like Teenage Wasteland album, that it's just timeless. And I spun Dookie the other day and I was just like still blown away by just how every single song, even like the fuck around songs at the end, still have just great hooks.
Yeah.
And are just super fun to listen to.
So it's even more appropriate that you guys are on for this episode because Connor was the one who got me into Green Day. Julian, to your point, identified as Green Day being my favorite band for several years.
Same.
Did Matt get you into Green Day, Connor?
I don't think so. Connor was just a big Green Day fan. Even from a young age, you're huge on them.
When we were like, I don't know, I was probably maybe 8 years old. I don't know. This is the first CD I ever bought. I remember like as a family, we went to like some CD store in the mall, and the first CD I ever bought was Dookie by Green Day. I was probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't know why I picked that out or why I had heard of it, but so I've been listening to that literally longer than any album in my life. And then I think probably within a year from that, American Idiot came out, and I was super obsessed with that. I had all their stuff on CD when I was like 10 years old, probably up until American Idiot. So I don't really know who got me into it, but I just ended up with that Dookie album and then just like hyper fixated on them for a long time. And then passed it on to you because you were unfortunately very easily influenced by me. So I think I just played Green Day all the time around you, and then you also got really into Green Day as a part of it because I think we would burn each other a lot of CDs during that time.
We would indeed. And yeah, the
Yeah.
timing of that in proximity to the release of American Idiot was just perfect because like I remember getting into Dookie first because you showed me that CD, and then American Idiot came out. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, how cool. This band that I like is like released an album. And then American
Yeah.
Idiot like just dominated my world for two years probably.
Yeah.
That was the first CD I think I got. I remember for like my 8th birthday maybe, my dad bought me a CD player and American Idiot on CD,
Nice.
and it was like all I played in my room.
I mean, that American Idiot was huge. Because we would still watch. I think me and you would still watch like MTV and VH1, and like at least in like the morning block, they still played music videos.
Yes.
So I remember like staying up super late at your house watching like MTV like late night music videos, and there was between like American Idiot, Holiday, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, like Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably 2 good years of like airplay for them. Like that album was everywhere, and it was crazy that like a band we got into like a year before from like a 10-year-old album just all of a sudden became like the biggest rock band in the world for 2 years. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, those are cherished memories, us watching MTV and VH1. I remember waking up early in the morning too before school so we catch some music videos. And there's like probably like a dozen music videos that I remember every scene of because we would just watch them like every day. Like all those Green Day songs you just mentioned. I remember Gorillaz were really big for us then too, and being obsessed with the Feel Good Inc. video.
That's another core memory for sure.
Yeah.
That was like that would have been like 2005.
Yeah.
But
yeah, a little later.
Yeah, this was like the last bastion of them playing music videos on those channels, I think.
Mm-hmm. I miss it.
Colin, were you into a lot of other pop punk? I know, Connor, like you like Green Day and like Jimmy Eat World, but I feel like then you kind of shifted to other music. Colin, were you the same, or did you go more down like the punk into the emo? Because I feel like that was a little bit before. Then like the emo took over.
Yeah,
and that was big in Colorado.
Really big.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, I was kind of the same as Connor. Like Green Day was big, Jimmy Eat World too. I was a little bit into Blink 182, but that whole craze kind of missed me. Like, which is funny because a lot of my friends outside of Connor, they would say Blink 182 were their favorite bands. But yeah, I'd kind of moved on to other stuff by the time, like definitely by the time the emo thing took over and everyone was listening to like MCR and all those bands. I was still like kind of into that music, but it's not what I identified with. So yeah, it's just been recently where I've gone back and like listened to a lot of the classic pop punk from those days.
Yeah, I had the Black Parade when it came out. I was really into that album, but I don't think that was probably the end of me being into emo stuff too. And then I got really into rap and then indie, more like modern indie type of stuff, I think. And then went back and got in same as you. Like I think I got into Weezer pretty late. I was like in college before I really got into Weezer and like Pinkerton and the Blue Album. And I was the same as you. I was never fully into Blink 182 either. Kind of missed us.
Yeah. Which it seems like it would have been fun to be into Blink 182 in those days, but it's fun getting into them now too. Julian, how did you get into Green Day?
Well, actually, I think it was kind of ironically because of Weezer that I got into Green Day. I was super into the Red album, and I don't remember when that came out. I want to say it was like 2008 or something around that ballpark. But the Red album came out from Weezer, and I was really into it, and I kind of got it because I don't know. I grew up listening pretty much just to like indie and alternative, like U2, Coldplay, fucking Radiohead, things like that. I wasn't really ever into like super guitar heavy music as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then Weezer was like the intro where like heavy guitar was like interesting to me, and I was like, oh, this is different. And then I kind of just accidentally stumbled upon Green Day, just trying to like find other stuff that reminded me of Weezer. And the first Green Day was Nimrod, like the album Nimrod, because my dad just happened to have a CD out, and it was Nimrod, so I listened to it and got super into that album. And then kind of obviously had like heard Boulevard of Broken Dreams, because American Idiot had been out for like a couple years already by the time I got into it. So I kind of was familiar with them. And then, just got super into American Idiot because of the lore that had been around that album for a couple years, and then worked my way backwards, like Dookie, Nimrod, and then Insomniac, and just kind of like went in order from there.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things that my dad was in radio, so like he had their whole discography just sitting in the basement, and I don't think he was particularly into Green Day at that point in time, so he just gave me the full discography, everything up to 21st Century Breakdown. So I had all the CDs, and I just went through them like in order, and then kind of just went through and became like super obsessed with not only the music but also just like the lore behind the music, like the universe, and became what I would call a punk kid. And then kind of because of Green Day, sideways through that, got into like the emo stuff of the time, got super into like Brand New, and what are some other bands like Chunk No Captain Chunk, like some really pop punky bands like that, where it was a little bit more like post-hardcore influenced pop punk, MCR and things like that, obviously when they came. But for me it was mostly like Green Day, Blink-182, and Weezer, where those were like the staple bands for me. So
so Matt,
Julian, what's your favorite Weezer album?
Probably it's probably either Blue Album or Pinkerton. It kind of depends on the day. I think Pinkerton is their best album, but I think Blue Album is just more timeless. And again, like Weezer is one of those bands where they go through a lot of phases. Like 10 years ago, it was super cringe to like Weezer, but now it's like cool to like Weezer again. So I think Blue Album is really the only album where like consistently through that, it's always been okay to like the Blue Album.
Yeah, I got into Weezer like 10 years ago, and I got really into Blue Album and Pinkerton, and it was definitely a time when it was like, fuck everything else they made after Pinkerton.
Literally.
Was the thought process, so that was literally just all I ever really got into by them. But they definitely do have better, like decent stuff spread out.
Yeah, I mean,
but they had some pretty awful stuff come out as well.
Their newer stuff is at least interesting. Like the White Album, I would say is a solid album. There's a lot of really good music on the White Album, and then like the Seasons thing is just interesting. Like I won't say that it's good, but it's a very interesting concept, and I am glad, kind of like what Matt was saying earlier, just about Green Day, like still making music, even if it's not the best, the fact that it's different and the fact that they're actually trying to do something different and not just sit back and recreate the same bullshit of the past. I feel like Weezer is owed that credit at least, because they definitely try a lot of shit. And a lot of it's fucking horrible these days. But some of it's
funny that these bands that we grew up with are like going through the exact same thing that all like classic rock bands, like I remember there's a same conversation about like Rolling Stones and stuff. Like people still see them on tour, and I remember being a kid and being like, "Why they're so old? Like, why would you want to see the Rolling Stones on tour? Like, what do they even play?" And now it's like, well, duh, like they're legends, and this is still people still have that connection. But it's probably like the same feel bad moment of the podcast. Like it's probably the same time distance between, you know, Green Day now and then and Rolling Stones when they were big.
Oh yeah,
the guys in Green Day have to be like in their 50s at this point, right?
Green Day, they're all 50. Okay, Blue Album and Dookie released February 1st, 1994. Blue Album May 10th, 1994. So within a couple months, same year.
Who produced Dookie? Rick something, right?
Rob Cavallo.
Rob Cavallo.
The name sounds
Dude.
familiar.
Did you know guy from the Cars, Rick Ocasek, produced Blue Album?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cars are awesome.
Did Rick
Not a pop punk band, but the Cars rule.
Their debut album is one of the best of all time.
Oh, so good. So good.
Here's Rob Cavallo. I mean, you could see tons of stuff. A lot of Green Day. He did most of their big ones. Goo Goo Dolls, MCR Black Parade.
Oh,
nice.
That's pretty big.
Nice.
He did American Idiot and Black Parade, which it's pretty big.
Kind of, yeah.
Similar. Pretty big.
Yeah, like
kind of a big
epic,
deal.
like rock operas.
Right. You must be the rock opera guy.
I guess so. Dookie, you could call Dookie a rock opera if you wanted to.
Some people might have said that.
I certainly do.
Yeah, you could make a play out of it.
It's just a guy on the toilet the whole time.
It's just a guy on the couch jerking off.
Did you see the Hail to the Thief Hamlet thing? Just a sidebar.
No.
Sorry. Just a
I
really
saw that.
random sidebar. They're making Hamlet, but Tom York is like rewriting a bunch of Hail to the Thief songs to like go along with it. So it's like reinterpreting a bunch of the original meanings of the songs to go more in line with the Hamlet plot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did see
Anywho, yeah.
Have you guys seen the movie Scotland, PA?
Mm-mm.
Good
No.
movie, worth watching. It's it was made in the late '90s. Has Christopher Walken in it, a couple other great
Nice.
people, and it's a modern retelling of Hamlet, set
Interesting.
in Scotland. Pretty good.
Hamlet. Oh. Oh.
Oh,
Hamlet. Oh.
so Matt, what was your way? Were you like when American Idiot came out? Then were you spinning that shit all the time? Were you as into it as Connor? Or was it kind of like a band that your younger brother was into and you weren't too into them?
I like experienced all of the pop punk like backwards. Like when I was in high school, I was a weird kid. I was like only classic rock, like Eric Clapton and Pink Floyd and all of those bands. So like I thought, and it's a funny story. Like our sister was probably more into like the emo, especially the emo stuff for a while. I didn't really get into pop punk. I really liked Sum 41 in high school. I don't know why, but like love Sum 41. Everything else,
All killer, no filler.
all killer, no filler. Oh my god,
So good.
Yeah.
so good,
So good.
And then I didn't really get into it until like college, and I started listening to these songs. And I think it was because, or at least my theory is like because I was really into guitar at the time, and a lot of classic rock stuff, super guitar driven, and it's interesting to listen to from a guitar point of view. Where like a lot of pop punk stuff, like the guitar is more of a canvas. It's not like the main character by any means. But then I started listening to it, and it was just like, oh my god, like these guys get me, like that feeling as a kid, like listening to Blink and like being like they understand that angst, which I feel like is what Blink did so well. They just like took the feelings that you didn't even know you had and like wrote a song about it, and then you heard it and you're like, yes, that's me. So and then it's definitely started with Blink, and then I went back and listened to like all the other stuff, and then ever since then it's been I've listened to it a lot more, but I was definitely late to the scene for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which
And-
maybe has made it for me, so like I still like it a lot more now. It was not to use, it was not a phase. Like I don't know, yeah, it's kind of helped me appreciate it more, I guess, now. So yeah, I had a roundabout way, a roundabout approach, but we did see a couple years ago, we went down with a couple buddies and saw, since we were talking about Green Day, Weezer, and Fall Out Boy, we saw them at Hella Mega Tour at Dodger Stadium.
Oh, nice.
And like it was pretty sick. It was a big moment. Big moment.
We were talking about all the like, and I don't really exactly know what spurred it on, but it feels like just in the last like 3 or 4 years, a huge surge of nostalgia for emo and pop punk bands. And like, yeah, there's tours like you just mentioned. And I think the big one was like the Way Way Back tour, whatever it's called. and I think they're doing it again this year, or they've done it every year maybe since. So yeah, it's like more than any other genre of music from that time period, there's such nostalgia around it. Like grunge doesn't have the same nostalgia that pop punk has.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it like punk just thriving in like kind of tense times and like people are feeling tense and there's like a release, or is it like um seeing a lot of these people that will come to our shows and like they're college age, so like they're probably right between like it's not cool to like your parents' music, but it's music that's like really, I don't know, it feels like really ripe for teenagers because it is a lot of that angst and stuff. So maybe they like thread the gap between, it's not their parents' music because they're maybe a little bit too old or yeah, probably too old.
Yeah.
And then they kind of rediscovered it, but it's totally true. It feels like a lot of this, it was so big and then it was like so decidedly uncool for a couple of years. Like there was such a strong backlash. It feels like to especially like the emo and a lot of the pop punk, like very quickly.
I feel like it might just be kind of a timing thing. The reason why I kind of feel that way is just because Blink-182 put out their new album. What was that, earlier this year, or was that the
was
end of last year?
Yeah, last year.
Either or. It came out recently enough where, it kind of indicated to me a lot of the people that were really excited about this Blink-182 album are in their 40s because they were in their late teens or early 20s when they really started getting into Blink-182. And so I think it's kind of just one of those things where as a generation, there's enough movement now for that like nostalgic factor of like, oh, I'm starting to long for the stuff I was listening to 20 years ago on a broad enough scale that combined with the fact that I think there's just been kind of a resurgence of like guitar heavy rock / just like more pop punk oriented music since like 2017, 2018. I think it was kind of just a perfect storm of like people feeling nostalgic for the old shit combined with the music industry already kind of ramping up the guitar rock scene over the last like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably some indie fatigue.
Definitely.
It might be part of it too, because there was like
we got really hoity-toity
15 years there where we weren't doing guitar bands, we weren't doing pop punk. It was all had to be like super serious, and Pitchfork giving it a high score, and it was like Arcade Fire and Vampire Weekend, which are all great bands, but they sprouted off some really like generic indie pop that was driving. That was all you would hear for a while. So I think maybe people were just ready for some more guitar driven, like just straightforward, catchy rock songs.
Something that didn't take itself as seriously. Yeah, I think you're right on with that.
Yeah.
That dropped the pretense.
I don't know if you guys have heard, there's this really good YouTuber, Rick Beato.
Oh, yeah. He says no one's making good stuff now, right? That's probably it.
Are we
he's got some
destined to
ideas.
be ruled by rap and hip hop?
I have been wondering where all the bands have gone, Matt. So if this guy could answer that question, I might subscribe.
I would really appreciate that, yeah.
And why are people driving so fast in the neighborhood?
I kind of wanted to mention one other thing about Green Day. I don't know if it was pertinent for you guys being musicians and discovering Green Day, but it definitely was super pertinent for me, like learning drums and discovering Green Day when I did. There was like a level of technicality to Trey Cool's drum parts where it's like they were difficult to play, and I learned from learning to play them, but they were easy enough that it was attainable. And for me, that was like a huge grabbing point for Green Day, was like it was accessible enough that I could play it or play a version of it and feel like I was in the universe. But yeah, it wasn't so like devoid of any character or personality that I didn't like pick up some tricks of the trade, like learning how to play Green Day. I think it was very formative for like my drumming style. And I know like I have a lot of friends who are like bass players and guitar players where like we grew up jamming Green Day together. And it was like formative for all of us. So
Yeah, I definitely learned all of the like acoustic Green Day songs as on acoustic guitar as some of the first songs I ever learned. That's like because my dad saw I was into Green Day and he was like, okay, maybe this is how Colin will learn guitar. So yeah, I learned all those.
Yeah, I remember learning the Green Day songs on guitar too. When I briefly played guitar,
yeah, I remember
as a youth.
When you played guitar, Connor. You also got pretty good.
I
I remember you soloed over something, and I got really jealous.
I don't think I ever got that good. I think I learned a lot of Green Day songs, but I never practiced as much as Matt did. I didn't have the dedication.
Part of that's just really good songwriting, though. Like, it sounds easy, and like you could pick up and like drum any of those or play them on guitar, and people could recognize them. Like they're recognizable. But then, like, man, going back and listening to some of these, even early on, like the drums are insane and like cool. He's never just like doing the same thing. Same with the bass. Like McDermott is always like doing something else. Like he's all over the place, Trey's all over the place, but they're still like enough together. I feel like that's a really big part.
Yeah, they definitely like
power.
I think they are probably, and obviously in their newer stuff it's less of a power trio vibe, but in their first like 3 albums I think they are like the perfect example of what a power trio should be. Every member is doing a little bit more to fill the space, but nobody is doing anything to step on somebody else, which is like I feel like a lot of power trios, especially modern power trios, make the mistake of overdoing their parts, and there's not like necessarily breathing room left over. So yeah
Now like having like knowing about like mixing music and stuff, I love listening to Green Day records for that reason, because you can really hear everyone's part and it has enough space in the mix and makes for an enjoyable listening experience to like pick out exactly what Billy Joe's doing on a certain guitar part, something like that.
Are we gonna rank Green Day albums?
Yeah, I think that's something we could do. Real quick, not to throw us off, I have a correction from what I said earlier. Scotland, PA is about it's a modern retelling of Macbeth, not Hamlet. That just popped in my head. I don't know my Shakespeare that well, so sorry.
That's a pretty rough mistake to have made.
I doth protest too much, perhaps.
They call it the Scottish play.
Yeah, that should have been my hint.
It's bad luck.
Scotland, Pennsylvania.
It's bad luck to say Macbeth on a podcast.
I like just 3 times in a row. Or I guess that's Beetlejuice.
Yeah, that is Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice?
I'm not doing it. No one do it.
Neither. Yeah, just in case.
Should we rank
that would just really derail things if Michael Keaton showed up.
Yeah.
I doubt he's that into pop punk.
It'd be cool though, especially since it's a video podcast. People could see it. If we didn't have the videos, we could just say he showed up, and we, no one would able to say it wasn't true.
I feel like Beetlejuice would have been really into post punk and goth.
Yes, I see Beetlejuice being like a big Joy Division fan.
Yeah, definitely, and The Cure.
Yeah,
but also probably like Depeche Mode.
Depeche Mode for sure.
At least aesthetically, but like I could see him kind of moshing at like more of like a hardcore concert, though, right?
That's true, because we should say Beetlejuice does like to let loose every once in a while.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of his thing.
Maybe he's a big like Fugazi fan.
Could be.
Yeah, perhaps even like third wave ska.
Wow.
Yeah. He did kind of dress. Yeah, I could see him at a Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Yeah,
concert.
A bit of a rude boy. Anyways, should we rank the Green Day albums now?
Yeah, or should we just switch into a ska episode?
I guess we have to switch into a ska episode. This is like
we could do like 45 to an hour on ska and then go back to pop punk.
We'll put a pin. We'll circle back. On that.
This is like when Scott and Scott tried to do a Chili Peppers series and then just ended up making it Talking Heads.
Yeah, that
This
was
is the
great.
ska episode now.
Yep.
No, it's not. I'm not prepared. We should have another ska one though. That would be great.
I don't know. I don't know.
No more bits. No more bits.
No more riffing. This is a very serious time.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm gonna rank off the cuff. I didn't prepare.
Yeah, I didn't prepare
you
either. I have to pull up their disc.
I can do it off
real
the
quick.
rip.
I'm
think
making my
will
list
too.
right now.
Okay. Are you guys ready to give your last? So we'll go in order from least favorite to favorite. We'll just go
Can we
around
do
the
like?
table.
Do we have to do all of them? Because I haven't really listened to like anything after.
Do you want to just do between
21st.
Dookie and 21st Century Breakdown?
Yeah. Let's
Or
do
not?
that.
Sorry, not Dookie, but we can do between the first LP, 39 Smooth, up until 21st Century Breakdown. All
Okay.
right. Connor, why don't you do the honors of going first?
So I would say last is 21st Century Breakdown for me. Mostly haven't listened to that one as much. I was pretty over Green Day by the time that came out. They got too mainstream for me, and they weren't cool enough anymore. So that was like 5 years after American Idiot. So I was not really listening to Green Day at that point. The song 21 Guns really annoyed me a lot.
Yep.
It was also very big. And I think they just kind of hit a little bit of a down patch at this point in their career.
Matt, why don't you go next?
Yeah. I'm least favorite of that is definitely also 21st Century Breakdown. I don't want to jinx it, but if that's what we're going up to, I think this might be unanimous. Yeah. It's not. It just doesn't seem. I mean, how do you follow up on American Idiot? And
I don't know. Knowing Julian, he'll probably have some contrarian opinion. Like 21st Century Breakdown's like his second favorite.
I was going to say that exactly. That's probably his second.
I will add in listening to Saviors. I do like Saviors. Like I would maybe put that as a honorable mention for the top 5. I just think it's different. It's kind of cool. There's some good riffs on it. Some of the lyrics are a little cringy, but like there's some songs in there that like hold up on their own and are different.
I also like Saviors, and not to get too off topic, but just what we're talking about later releases. I immediately wrote off Father of All Motherfuckers when it came out, but Julian, when Saviors came out, we were talking about that album, and Julian actually got me into a lot of songs off of Father of All Motherfuckers, and it's fun. They really changed their sound for that album. There's like a lot of like, there's a couple, at least 2 songs I can think of that sound almost exactly like Portugal the Man songs, which surprised me. So I still maintain that it's not a great album. But
yeah, it's like, it's interesting.
It's interesting. I think you guys should give it a re-listen.
Yeah. I think for me, I would honestly say the same thing that Matt said about Saviors, considering that it's a back half release. It's safe to say for Green Day, they're putting it out towards the latter half of their careers. I would say it's pretty solid considering that. It's nice to see that they're still trying to be inventive, considering that they really don't have to be putting out anything at all. And I would kind of say the same thing about, Father of All Motherfuckers and Revolution Radio. Like, I feel like those are both albums where they took a lot of chances just because they wanted to, not because they were trying to like fulfill any sort of obligation or do anything specific. They just wanted to do different stuff for themselves. So that's why I like those later releases. But for the albums that we're ranking right now, I would unfortunately put 21st Century Breakdown at the bottom of the list. I do love this album. It came out quickly enough for me after American Idiot where I was still in my Green Day phase, and so I was still just in that mode of like, if they put it out, it's good. Like, I don't really give a shit. It's Green Day. I like it. But I do think there are a lot of solid songs on it. There's also a lot of pretty mid songs on it. So, yeah.
Well, there's the contrarian take for you, folks. I'm in the exact same boat as Connor on this one. 21st Century Breakdown is my least favorite because I was fully out of my Green Day phase by the time 2009 rolled around. I had outgrown all 3 of my American Idiot t-shirts that I had gotten as gifts from various people. And so, I don't even remember like really giving this album a chance even at the time it came out. And
Yeah, I wasn't
still,
even going into Hot Topic anymore at the mall.
Exactly.
I think I had my phase at least a year or two later than you guys, because I was still into Green Day like sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
You know, like they were still my shit.
I kind of like after a couple years after American Idiot, I kind of just started associating Green Day as like a cheesy band to like if you were like a really basic rock fan, you liked Green Day.
Yeah,
They were like, it was like AC/DC.
That's just what
Green
happens
Day.
to all bands that get
for
too
sure.
popular.
Definitely.
Like, it got ruined by fucking Chads. Now it's lame to like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then now we go back and we're like, oh no, they were still good.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
All right, what's your least favorite after 21st Century Breakdown?
I'd probably have to go just on virtue of I never had this album and I never listened to it that much as Shenanigans.
I was just gonna ask, what is that?
It was in between Warning and American Idiot. The only song I even really know off it is "Ha Ha You're Dead," but that was one of the rare few, maybe the only one to that point I didn't have.
I saw that on
CD, and so it's just virtue of that.
I don't even have Shenanigans on my
myself.
list, my Wikipedia discography list.
Not to unqualify myself, I was looking at that on Spotify. I was like, this must be a compilation or something because I've never heard of this.
Yeah,
I remember it existing, but I just never remember listening to it.
Well, I might retroactively put that behind 21st Century Breakdown then, because I at least heard of that one.
Should we just
or we could just not put it on there.
Let's omit Shenanigans.
All right.
Okay.
It
does say Shenanigans is a compilation album.
It is a comp record. So
it's B-sides. Okay. It's a B-sides album.
So yeah, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt anybody, but definitively, it was a Reprise Records compilations B-sides release that was meant to hype up before. Or I think I can't remember. No, it was Warning. I can't remember if it was post Warning.
Came out after Warning. Warning was 2000. Shenanigans
it was
was 2002.
Like tied to Warning in one way or another.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the only reason I know that is because my dad had that in the mail from the label specifically. So
it could make sense. I did not know reading about this that American Idiot sounds like almost didn't happen. They had another, I think it was...
They had like a bunch of songs cut and then threw the whole thing out basically and started over.
Yeah. It was, or I had seen, I don't have any sources. I had seen that they had like the demo tape stolen. It was supposed to be Cigarettes and Valentines, which...
I thought that was Warning.
Maybe it was both, but I don't know. This was on Wikipedia, so who knows?
Well, I think you're right, Matt, because... Billy Joe Armstrong was on Mark Maron a little bit ago, his podcast, and he got into that history a little bit, which I didn't know too much about. And I read up about it at the time and kind of forget some of the details. But yeah, they were like, American Idiot came at a really low point for the band. Like they were having a lot of writer's block. I think Billy Joe was struggling with substances again at that time. And they basically scrapped the album they were working on and turned it into American Idiot, which is wild.
Yeah. Good pivot.
All right.
Yeah,
really good pivot. That's a good one.
Yeah, maybe the best pivot in musical history.
Could be.
The lore behind Warning was basically that they turned in some demo tracks to the label, and the label said that they weren't essentially like heavy enough, they weren't punk enough sounding. And so in response to that, Green Day scrapped all the demos and made them like more acoustic for Warning to like piss off the label.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Warning is pretty acoustic.
Huh.
It's very punk.
Yeah. I would say one of the best pivots is the Beastie Boys pivoting from being a punk band to being a rap group.
That's also good pivot there.
Good pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Really good
Or
pivot.
what about Machine Gun Kelly completing the loop and pivoting from being a rapper to a punk band?
Yeah, and Machine Gun Kelly is really punk rock. I think we can all agree.
I mean, more than Green Day even, he is carrying the torch.
Are you guys going to do a Machine Gun Kelly episode?
Not just. I guess we'll have to spoil it. It was going to be the cherry on top of the punk rock block.
Isn't he just Machine now, or is he MGK? Didn't he do something with his name?
John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah, you're thinking of John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
He dropped the Cougar.
He dropped it. Yeah. It's John Machine Gun Mellencamp now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just MGK. He just wants to be called MGK. If anyone gave a single fuck.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Hopefully this will be the last time I ever say his name.
Beetlejuice.
So it shouldn't matter. Oh!
All right. So omitting Shenanigans, Connor, then what's your, I guess, 7th favorite? We're ranking the first 8 albums.
Omitting Shenanigans, I will go with 10,039 Smooth Out Slappy Hours. It's like interesting to listen to, but I'd say they were still had a little ways to go in terms of their songwriting, and it's all pretty raw.
Yep.
So, not to spoil anything, but like the next one after that, they really came into their own. But they were pretty young for most of these, like, and it's a mix of like 3 different EPs, so I don't feel bad having it low. But we were including that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We're including that.
I would agree. It just feels very garage. I mean, it's just a little harder to listen to. Like, it's important, but it's just not as well done. It sounds like a lot of the early Blink stuff too, and like a lot of the punk stuff, like low budget, harsher sounding, not as well mixed. So going back and listening to it, like, not saying it's not important, not saying it's not good, but yeah, I'm gonna rank it at 7.
I'm aligned with you guys on that one. Also 7. Just, yeah, it's so early. Sounds like demos a little bit. Definitely interesting to listen to, but yeah.
It is also a compilation album, technically.
True. Well, it's kind of just like a combination of the first EPs in an LP release.
There's one called 1039 Smooth, or 39, 1,000 Hours, 39 Smooth, and Slappy were the 3 like EPs. So yeah, it kind of is a compilation, but it's their early stuff.
Wikipedia declares it as a studio album.
Oh, it does.
Well, yeah. Why don't you suck on that, Julian?
I mean, my Wikipedia doesn't.
Are we using different Wikipedias here?
It looks
What's going on?
Is this an episode of 2 Wikipedias?
This episode of...
Well, yeah, I guess
slightly different timelines.
Yeah, I'm 5 minutes behind Colin.
And I edited it.
You added it just to make me look like a fucking moron. But yeah, if we're including it, then I'd put it in the same place as you guys.
Okay, so 6th favorite. So far, we're all in agreement. Connor, what's your 6th favorite?
What if we all agree exactly the same on everything?
It's gonna be boring.
Yeah,
my 6th favorite is gonna be Warning.
God damn it!
Oh my god, that was mine too.
I think there will be some mix up in like the top 4, but
agreed.
I think these all
it's gonna get interesting.
Yeah, Warning. I mean, yeah, it's just not as. I mean, it is pretty stripped back, and it's not terrible, but it's kind of a down point after a pretty hot stretch, I would say.
Are you going to throw a wrench in here, Julian? I feel like you might ride for Warning. No?
No.
All right.
I do love it. I think it's very good, but it's one of the not stronger albums. I mean, just compared to the rest of them.
Interesting. I don't know if they always do this, but I mean, Warning's good. And then I feel like my next 2 favorite songs on that are the second, third to the last, Waiting and Minority, which Minority is kind of a dope.
Minority fucking
punk
rips.
Song.
Yeah, that is a good song.
Waiting's good too. It's like, I mean, they probably just, I don't know if they didn't like him as much. I feel like Minority, you hear that and you're like, this is absolutely a single, but I don't know what happened with that. Maybe they just put it at the end because, like you said, Colin, they're trying to piss off the label, which it's pretty pop punk rock.
I think it was
pop punk rock.
One of the singles for that record.
Minority?
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was on that DVD I had, Matt, that I was talking about. I had the International Super Videos DVD.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
There's definitely Minority on there
that.
and Warning. Yeah, I think that came out like right after Warning, I think.
Okay.
Do you guys have merch for this? Because we could coin a phrase, and that's so pop punk.
Yeah, that's pop punk rock.
I think that's a great
That's pop punk rock.
podcadzo. That's so pop punk rock.
It's like a slightly edgy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could do it. You could do it in a Green Day font.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll cut you in on that one for sure. I might have to take back
we're gonna
the
need to talk
YouTube
about that.
monetary sharing. We'll discuss all this offline. But
Great.
Yeah. All right.
I'm just gonna say, you guys should know that I'm a very litigious individual. So I just wouldn't try to fuck me if I were you out of my podcadzo residuals. I'm gonna come after your whole back catalog.
Connor's litigious and Matt is fiduciary.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
We have that.
Sanders and Sanders, litigious and fiduciary.
Fiduciary.
Okay. So everybody had warning for 6?
Yep. 5.
All right. 5. I'm gonna go Insomniac for 5.
Same.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay. All right. Cool. Brain Stew, Jaded. Great song.
Yeah, Brain Stew.
Otherwise, feels like maybe it got rushed out a little bit after Dookie was such a big deal.
It is good. It's pretty heavy. I like it a lot. I just don't know that it has as many singles. Like nothing else really stands out besides Brain Stew and Jaded.
I do feel like
Geeks Think Brent is a decent song too.
I feel like this is their most straightforward punk record, besides maybe the first couple. But
it feels a little more raw than a lot of the other stuff around it. So but it's good. We do play when we play Brain Stew. We do go right into Jaded after that, and there's always like a couple people that get it.
Yeah,
in the audience, but
I always appreciate it. I haven't heard you guys play Brain Stew in a while though.
Well, we got kind of more shows.
I come to literally every single one.
Well, keep coming.
All right, number 4 is going to be Kerplunk for me. Speaking of straightforward punk albums, it is a pretty sweet punk album. Obviously, it wasn't on a major label, and they got a lot more polish on the next one, and probably a little better with the hooks and the songwriting. But Kerplunk is a pretty fun raw punk album, I think, that is pretty catchy. They were getting into their being able to write some pretty catchy songs era, and just need a little more polishing for Dookie to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I always really paired Kerplunk and Dookie. Kind of thought of them as like a duo of albums.
They did kind of the Blink. We were talking, Connor. They did kind of the Blink thing with having "Welcome to Paradise" on 2 songs, kind of like Blink did with like "Carousel." They had on like their first 3 albums. It was a little different on all of them, which is kind of interesting. You can hear the progression, but
it's definitely different.
It doesn't feel that common. But I also had Kerplunk next.
So this is where we finally differ.
Oh, nice.
I have Nimrod.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. I just it's definitely close for me, but as of late, because I have recently gone through Green Day's discography again, I just enjoyed listening to Kerplunk more than Nimrod. And I liked hearing kind of the early like proto Dookie sounds more than the slightly more polished Nimrod. As good as songs like Good Riddance are off of Nimrod, and I like when I was a huge Green Day fan back when I was a kid, Nimrod definitely had more songs that I loved on it than Kerplunk, but yeah, now in hindsight, I think I prefer Kerplunk as an album.
I'm not saying you guys should break up Cadzo, but if you do and start a new band, Proto Dookie Sounds would be a pretty sweet.
Oh yeah. Or just Proto Dookie.
Proto Dookie's
Proto
good too.
Dookie.
Yeah.
I like that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my next one on my list is Dookie.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
That's your number 4?
I think. Okay. Well, couple things here.
Similar to the album art of Dookie,
What
you're
did I
really
say?
dropping
What
a
did I
bomb on us here.
Couple things here. First of all, I'll just I'll
Or-
defend myself first because it seems like that's what I always got to do in these situations.
Speaking of the name of Dookie, this is a really shitty opinion.
You're right.
You're a total Nimrod.
I think I just for
Yeah.
me I didn't.
You're an American idiot.
All right.
I'm gonna
I
give you
This
did
is
vote for
shenanigans.
George. I did vote for George
This is
Bush
your
twice.
last
So.
warning. This is your last warning.
He has due process. You should know litigiously, Connor. He has the
Yeah,
right to
that's
due
true.
process.
All right. State your case.
Okay, so for me personally, as a Green Day fan, I didn't really get to Dookie until the very end, that's kind of not fully true. I didn't really discover Dookie until later on, though, in my Green Day pursuit, and it just never really spoke to me as much. In my opinion, it was kind of a transitionary ground from them being like a really raw punk band into them trying to be a more commercial pop punk band. And so in my opinion, I always just kind of I always heard it as more of a stepping stone album, more of a transition from one thing to another thing. And I think it still defines their sound. It's still like probably the most important album in their discography if we're talking just what got them on the map. But for me personally, it never like latched onto my like super pure emotional nostalgic chords the same way that it did with like everybody else, it seems like.
So you like
And the other thing I gotta say, sorry to interrupt, but the other thing I gotta say is I also included 39 Smooth in my list, so that's part of the reason why Dookie is higher up than it is. Because I have to mention 39 Smooth as part of my list, but.
And you said you came on later, so you like the more recent, like the less or more polished. I don't know what the word for it is. You like the post Dookie Green Day more than the pre?
It's kind of like, so I like the post polish when they figured it out, and then I also like the pre polish before they got it fully dialed. If that makes sense.
This was just like Uncanny
I
Valley.
like both sides of the extreme. Yeah, kind of.
Sure.
The Uncanny Valley of Dookie.
Of Dookie.
Yeah.
That's the first proto Dookie sounds release.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Boom.
All right.
Well,
cool. Now this is an interesting discussion. We all have different opinions on our number 4. So we're number 3 now?
Number 3, I'm going to go Nimrod.
Nimrod number 3.
All right.
I'm also the same.
Great. Like the first 4 are all super good. And then obviously Platypus is good. Good riddance. It's super solid. Super good. Hitching a Ride, real underrated Green Day song.
Love Hitching a Ride.
Yeah.
Banger.
Definitely.
Big time.
Okay. So maybe not surprised here. My number 3, Kerplunk.
Okay.
I'll do my, because I have one more than you guys, so I'll do 4 and 3 at the same time.
Well, we did.
And then
We
2 and
ranked
1.
39 Smooth, didn't we?
Cool.
We didn't.
We ranked 10,039 smooth out slappy hours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
You guys
Whatever.
ranked
I guess
1030. You guys ranked 1039, and then.
We ranked that one. That
Yeah.
was our like 7th or whatever.
Well, I'm putting 39 Smooth at 4 and Kerplunk at 3. So there's those 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Boom.
Cool.
So we both line up with Kerplunk as our 3rd.
Why do you like 39 smooth so much, Julian? You want to talk about it?
So it's like it's an early punk. It's like a early 90s punk masterpiece, in my opinion. So like, Don't Leave Me is a fucking banger. I Was There is a fucking banger. The song, the titular album / band Green Day song is an absolute banger. Going to Pas La Croix is a fucking banger as well. And then 16 is like good. It's not great, but then it finishes out Road to Acceptance, Rest, and then The Judge's Daughter. I think those 3 songs are just like the kind of Green Day mission statement, if you will. Like that's what kind of informs what becomes like Kerplunk and Dookie, in my opinion. And then Kerplunk just like it just has so many like just so many straightforward, absolutely amazing punk ideas. Specifically, like again, the back half of it, 80 Android No One Knows, who wrote Holden Caulfield and Words I Might Have, 8 are just like all very informative for what comes afterwards, I feel like. So
almost all the song titles on this album would make sense as Vampire Weekend song titles. Like At the Library with Wabasewaska. How's that not a Vampire Weekend song?
Go into Pasalacqua.
Yeah. Pasalacqua.
The Judge's Daughter.
The Judge's
too.
Daughter, for sure, yeah.
yeah.
Diplomat's Son, The Judge's Daughter.
Paper Lanterns. Yeah, this is wow.
409 in your coffee maker. That sounds very fancy, Weeks. Okay, number
2.
2.
Yeah.
Number 2. You would think it would be Dookie, but because of the number 2. Yeah. Yep. But no, it's actually American Idiot. But American Idiot, I hadn't listened to it in a long time, and I listened to it the last couple of days again. And I was like, oh, God damn it, this album is super fucking good. Was telling Matt, like, the song Jesus of Suburbia is like, what is it, like 7 different parts, and they could have just
like
expanded
4.
like all set. I think it's more than 4.
I want to say it's 4.
Yeah, it's not. It's 5. Sorry, 5.
Okay.
Jesus of Suburbia, City of the Damned, I Don't Care, Dearly Beloved, and Tales of Another Broken Home.
Yeah, those are every part of that is great, and like its own like riff and hook. Like they could have packed those 5 songs out and had half the album right there. But super satisfying to listen to. I think like this was a very risky, ballsy album to put out. Like a band that was just like a stoner pop punk band that its most famous song before this was about jerking off. Like with this political, like just really skilled songwriting to use. And like, I mean, looking back, it was so popular right away. You didn't think so, but they were in kind of a commercial rut. And for them to have to put something like this out was pretty ballsy. And I think it still holds up. It's really good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to 39 Smooth real quick, because as Julian was talking about, it's like, those are all really good points. They're also 19 when it came out. All of them.
Yeah, they were super young.
That's nuts. And like, they didn't have like songwriters and stuff helping. Like, that was just them. So, I mean, I don't know that it makes it like better in my mind. It definitely makes it way more impressive.
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
that's crazy. 19 years old. My number 2 is Dookie, and for really no other reason than I just think American Idiot was like more impactful. But I mean, Dookie's Dookie, and it started so much. I feel like Dookie kicked off so much of the pop punk scene, and then American Idiots kicked off so much of like the emo rock scene. Like they're both like hugely important albums, but maybe it's because of when I was alive, but I just couldn't put Dookie above American Idiot.
Fair.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
That's what I got.
All right. Julian, you go.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I put my number 2 as American Idiot as well. And pretty much all the same reasons. I think it kickstarted like rock operas, or re-kickstarted rock operas. It definitely was like the first movement towards like that mid-2000s emo scene that I think was very crucial for all of us in our upbringing, the way that we grew up. And I do think that it was just incredibly brave of them to put out a record like that the way that they did and in the time that they did. I think they reaffirmed the like oldest and most true punk belief, which is just you have to speak up against shit that you don't believe in or shit that you don't like. You have to like call bullshit when you see it, and you can't be afraid of like people's response to that. So that also definitely informed a lot of like how I view the world and how I want to conduct myself as a person. So definitely very critical album, I would say.
Well said.
Also, one thing that's sick about this album before we move on from American Idiot is Holiday and Boulevard of Broken Dreams are technically on it as one song, and they were like both separately successful singles, but they combined them into one song on the album. Like they clearly didn't give much of a shit about like singles or anything the way they put it together, but it still ended up having like 4 really successful singles on it. So
4 successful singles and like almost no bad songs.
they're really
no skips in my opinion. So
yeah, I think so. I think it's skipless.
So this is tough for me, but I'm actually gonna say that my number 2 is Dookie.
We're split, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
2v2.
I'm gonna be the only person who had Dookie at number 1.
No. Oh, it's true.
Oh yeah, true.
Julian had it at 4.
Wow. All right. So Connor, you're number 1, obviously Dookie.
Yep, Dookie. I mean, yeah, it's the first album I ever owned, so it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Was super, super formative for me, for better and for worse. But it's, speaking of no skips, like it's just every song on it is so good and so catchy, and it sounds really good. It's definitely like a huge step forward in sound from Kerplunk, and it's just every song on there is just ingrained in my head, and I've listened to it 1,000 times, and I still, like the other day, gave it a spun, hadn't listened to it a little bit, and was like, God damn, everything on here is so good. So yeah, I don't think that'll ever not be my number 1 favorite Green Day album.
Definitely. Well said.
Yeah.
So Matt, your favorite then?
I'm going American Idiot. I agree with most of the things Julian said, but I was thinking a little bit also, like, this is such a political album, and yeah, like such a risky album, and also especially from a band that was not like, at this point, it's not like they couldn't miss. Like they're doing fine, but before this, you probably would have said like they're regressing and kind of like, fading a little bit, and falling from the spotlight. So
they haven't had anything be nearly as successful as Dookie was. That's
right.
For sure.
Yeah.
At this point,
they have to be feeling the pressure from that, and like, at least in my lifetime, like there's not a lot of albums that I feel like are this overtly political, and it kind of made me think like, this probably must have been what it was like in the 70s more, where this was so much more of an like cultural expression as opposed to, I don't know, whatever, all the different reasons people make music today. Like I don't, it just makes me think of it a little bit differently. So and plus on top of all that, like musically, it's so simple but interesting, which is so hard to do, and like well done, like to tell stories like that and to have those songs like flow into each other like that. It's not just like good songwriting on one song, the fact that they all flow so well and they all play off of each other and like have themes play off of each other, like it's just like a tour de force.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like profound and it's timeless. Like the profundity of it and the fact that it is relevant almost at any point in time.
Almost more
profundity.
Yeah.
Profundity. Bless you.
Gesundheit.
The cinematic pan got those sneezes very beautifully.
Nice.
They like pulled in and then pulled out and then pulled back in for the second one.
Me and Matt were talking about that the other day. Isn't it kind of weird how like when if somebody doesn't know if you coughed or sneezed, they're like, "Oh, is that a cough or a sneeze?" And if it's a sneeze, you get a bless you. And if it's a cough,
it's just nothing. Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank God it was a cough. I did not want to follow up to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Just an observation.
Good observation, guys.
Hey, thanks. Okay.
So wait, Julian, I haven't been keeping good enough track with your list. I'm honestly going to be surprised what your number 1 is.
My number 1
I know what it is.
The one that you said just wouldn't hold your interest. You tried spinning it and you just didn't connect to it. You just didn't like it, And that's Nimrod. For me, Nimrod is, and I'm not going to try to argue in any way that it's like a better record than American Idiot or even Dookie. I think in a lot of ways, both of those records are better from like a songwriting perspective or a relevancy perspective, all those things. But in my opinion, Nimrod is the most Green Day record of all the Green Day records. Like it's the most punky when it's punky. It's the most raw when it's raw. It's the most like ridiculous and stupid when it's ridiculous and stupid. It's just like the most extreme. And I feel like that's kind of what I've always liked about artists is when they go balls to the wall and just do crazy, arguably stupid shit sometimes. And this kind of like how Connor feels about Dookie this is how I feel about Nimrod. Like it's the first Green Day record I listened to. It's the reason why I liked Green Day to begin with. It kind of gave me a sense of individualism before really anything else did, because up till that point, like everything that I liked was something that like my mom or my dad showed me, or like one of my friends showed me, and like nothing was really mine. So I felt like this was the first record where it was like mine, where like I was able to show it to other people and they didn't know about it yet, and turned me into like the kind of narcissistic fucking douchebag that I am today. Intolerable. So yeah.
Well, that's I like your justification for that it is in a lot of ways the most Green Day-ish album. Would I put Nimrod my fourth? I might have to, wherever I put it, I might have to reconsider after your explanation just then. Well said. All right, so no surprises. My favorite is American Idiot. I probably listen to Dookie, or like Return to Dookie more often. Return to Dookie, another good release for the next band. Like I come back around to that album more often, but kind of similar to what you were saying, Connor, like American Idiot was the first CD I owned. Well, I actually think I had a Backstreet Boys CD. So, and Backstreet Boys are definitely more important to me than Green Day. But
shout out Millennium.
Obviously,
that goes without saying. But it just holds a very special place in my heart because of that. It's hard to not say that American Idiot is my favorite Green Day album just because of how obsessed I was with it at one point in time. And Matt, like to your point, now in retrospect, knowing the lore of the album and like what they were going through at the time, and that really could have been a career killer for them if it was a flop of an album, just makes it that much more impressive and significant to me. So yeah, that's why it's my favorite.
My favorite.
Here's a question. And potential segue. We're thinking, because like there's not that many places to play in Santa Barbara. We have a lot of songs, the band, but we're trying to keep it switched up a little bit. So one idea was to play. I think we started off with Jimmy Eat World, like playing basically an entire album. It's in its entirety in like the pop punk alt rock vein. I think American Idiot would be about as good as any.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it's not
concerns like other albums that would be a better like back to full playthrough.
That'd be sick.
I mean, it's interesting, like, and this is something that I think about a lot because, when I was like 10 years ago, when I was a teenager, there was a bunch of albums that were having like anniversaries or just like kind of like date milestones in one way or another. And bands would kind of just like ignore or brush over them for the most part. And I feel like lately, along with this nostalgia kick, is like the whole not reunion tour, but the playthrough tours that everyone is doing. Like Weezer's doing it, Green Day's doing it,
Modest Mouse
Thrice has done
now.
it like fucking 4 tours in a row now. There's a bunch of bands that are on that tip, which is cool as a fan because I always wanted to see bands doing full albums and like really paying homage to those full albums. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't really a thing until probably the last like 5-6 years, or at least not like a regular thing. So
I saw Nas do that with Illmatic.
That's fucking so sick.
It was in 2014. It was the 20th anniversary of Illmatic.
That's so cool.
And we went. It was at the Paramount in Denver, and he played his documentary. He had a documentary by Illmatic, and he came out after and played Illmatic all the way through.
I've seen that doc somewhat recently. That doc is great. That's cool. Is at the Paramount. Wait.
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah.
Real quick, guys, not to interrupt, but Will Benson has walked in the room. Kadzo, keyboard player. Will, do you have a favorite Green Day album? Do you want to hop on the pod?
Yeah, come hop on mic
Pull
real
up a
quick.
chair, friend.
But yeah, just to curtail that thought, I think now would be the best time to do American Idiot all the way through. I think that because think about fan bases. There's not that many fan bases where like they're stoked to hear an album all the way through. An American Idiot is one of the like very few albums where it's like people are actually down to listen to it all the way through. They know all the songs and they're like down to
The
all
only
the hype
one,
moments.
the only other one I would say it might be like either a tie for first or a 1B would be "Hooray for Boobies" by the Bloodhound Gang.
I'm not too familiar with that one,
be-
actually.
We'll take that into advisement.
Or you could do their greatest hits album, "Show Us Your Hits."
That's
You could probably do "Enema of the State," I think.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is
You
probably
You could do Dookie. You could do
Dookie too. Yeah.
You could do Blue Album too.
You could do
would
Blue
be sick.
Album.
Or
See?
Black
Yeah, blown
Parade.
top off.
So, Will,
Black Parade.
for context.
Yeah.
Wait, real quick, guys, let me introduce
Hey,
Will.
Will.
This is Will
Hey, Will.
Benson. Connor Sanders, Matt Sanders.
What's up?
Matt is
Oh.
in a cover band, and he's thinking of the next album to play all the way through. They've done Jimmy Eat Worlds before.
We've talked about it. We haven't done it yet.
I've talked about Jimmy
So,
Eat World.
Would you
any
do-
listeners of the pod, please forward your ideas to either Colin or The Last Decade.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good fan. Yeah, they'll take fan submissions.
Oh yeah, follow
That's
the
great.
Last Decade on Instagram
There you go.
Indeed.
and DM your requests.
Send in all your dick
and
pics.
Kadzo.
Yeah, are you guys
Mhm.
accepting dick pics right now?
Hey.
DMs are always open for
No
for dick
DMs
pics.
are bad DMs. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about a DM of a BM? Anyways,
Good
along with Dookie.
that was just another
There we go.
bit there.
Dead air.
Yeah. Good riff. Good riff. Good app.
Real good app, guys.
Yeah. Was that an episode of DMs of BM?
Parenthetical riffing.
Yeah. Ripping on BMs.
Well, we will have to wrap up somewhat soon, guys, because we have a rehearsal to kick off here.
Band practice.
Band
Okay.
practice.
Band practice. Yeah, I got places to be.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Me and Matt are playing 3v3 hockey tonight.
Oh, you
And a
are?
little puck.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
But it's not till 8:15.
I called his bluff and he had something for it.
Yeah. Suck on that, Julian.
I would love to.
I've got
Maybe I'll
all
stop
kinds
by.
of shit going on. I got all kinds of stuff going on.
Oh,
When is Kadzo doing a Southern California tour?
Yeah. Central Coast.
Pretty
potentially
sweet.
2025. We'll have to
Ooh.
do a ballot system for that.
You
And
guys
we'll
should do
have
a
to
Santa
figure
Barbara
that out.
show with The Last Decade.
That would be a dream come true, honestly.
That'd be pretty
Dude.
We'd
sweet.
love to do that.
You guys do American Idiot and then we'll do Contra.
Oh wow. That
I mean, that would
now you're
be
talking.
actually sick.
Benson is gonna have to do a lot of heavy lifting.
You're going to have to do
Wow.
most of the
That one,
work.
yeah. You better get started on that right now. Really familiarize yourself with Contra Vampire Weekend.
Do
Speak-
Contra, but instead of the keyboard parts, just do it with your mouth.
Acapella Contra.
Yep.
There we go.
Acapella Contra. Contra
Contrapella.
acapella.
This is off topic from pop punk, but Santa Barbara made me think of the U2 song California naturally. And Connor, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask where you're at with U2
Oh yeah.
these days.
So I went pretty deep on U2. I'd say I probably went even deeper on REM.
That's
I had never
so
listened-
interesting, dude.
Yeah,
You're-
dude. I think I. What? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, my U2 thing last year led me directly to REM as well. So that's just
Well,
very interesting.
For me, it's because I was doing the podcast. I was doing the Scott and Scott podcast.
Mhm.
So, because I had never actually listened to the U2 or REM seasons. So I went through U2, went super deep. Listened to, especially on their earlier stuff. I listened to pretty much everything. I don't think I ever listened to No Line on the Horizon. I did listen to Songs of Surrender, but I really went back the most to like Unforgettable Fire and Joshua Tree. I still couldn't get that into Octane Baby, which like I really wanted to like it, but maybe I will later. I really liked All That You Can't Leave Behind. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
I get it mixed.
Nailed it.
There's a Converge album called All We Love We Leave Behind, and it's very confusing. But I like that album a lot too. But then yeah, I don't know. I went on to the REM season and just like really liked a lot. There's so much REM that I like. The older stuff, Life's Worth Pageant, I listened to so many times through. I fucking love that album. Listened to a lot of the New Adventures in Hi-Fi, that album. I'd say I went deeper on REM and listened to more REM overall than you two. But there's also probably the only two bands that I listened to almost exclusively for like the last 3 months.
Right.
So they each got a lot of play.
Matt, where are you on YouTube? Are you a fan?
I like. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say I'm a fan. I like them. think I just kind of like missed the boat on them. So I feel like I need to do a deep dive. It's deserved.
Yeah.
But I just never had, outside of the iTunes fiasco. Like, I know they're big songs, but I've never.
I've been playing a good amount of them around you. We did Joshua Tree. I played Joshua Tree for you.
It's all good. I like it when I hear it, but I just still don't like ever go in and like, I am in a YouTube mood right now.
Yeah.
Which is on me. I'm probably missing out. I need to do it. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I was for a long time until pretty recently.
It's just a lot of good music. It's tough, you know?
For sure.
It's terrible.
It is hard these days to dedicate time, like Connor has so courageously done, to purely listening to YouTube.
Yeah.
When there's only so many days in your life.
Yeah. Well, thanks mostly to Scott and Scott, I would say, because it really stemmed out of me wanting to listen to their podcast more. And then I was like, all right, well, I guess this sounds pretty good. And
you had at least
going through
heard of YouTube by the time you finished their podcast. And you knew the band member names.
Yeah. I knew all the band members' names of U2, and the same thing happened with REM. I also learned all of their names.
Yeah,
so
that's step one for sure in getting into a band.
Oh,
we forgot to mention Green Day's names.
Oh yeah, Billy Joe Armstrong.
Yep, Billy Joe.
Billy Joe the Strong Arm. Mike,
you're doing it, Connor.
Mike Dirnt and Trey Cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Trey is cool. Trey Cool does seem like the cool one.
He does.
He just had like, I always thought growing up, he just had that quiet, cool guy, which apparently he's a super goofy guy.
He's super goofy.
He's
like
a
wild card.
Yeah.
Do you ever hear the story?
He never like says anything.
You ever hear the story about David Letterman being like terrified of Trey Cool?
No.
Because after like every Green Day appearance on David Letterman's show,
Trey Cool would start
run
jerking
over.
off.
Yeah, he would jerk off furiously directly into the camera. It costed him a lot of money.
That's super pop punk rock as well.
Yeah,
that's so pop punk.
He would just run and tackle Dave Letterman. And so Dave Letterman was just fucking like, please don't hurt me. Like, don't touch me.
That's a good reason to be terrified of someone if they do literally physically assault you anytime.
It's just for the camera, bro.
I thought it was like
fair.
He did something crazy, which, yeah, that is crazy, but it's not like...
It's not that creative.
But he did it once, and then you have to assume that it's coming the second time, you know? Just prepare yourself for it. Don't gotta be a bitch.
Sorry, not to get off topic again when there is so much stuff on topic that we could talk about, but I just watched this on YouTube. There's a really good montage of Harmony Korine, the director, you know, the dude who did Kids, on Letterman, and he ended up getting
seen
banned. Yeah, how he got banned on Letterman.
Oh, I didn't see how he got banned.
So, I mean, each appearance was just more bizarre than the last, so I think he was on thin ice to begin with. And then the last one he did, he supposedly went into Meryl Streep's dressing room because she was on the show that night too and like stole something from her purse, and that got him banned. But the interviews are fascinating to watch.
Yeah, he's a weird dude, that Harmony Korine.
Very strange guy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, guys, any closing remarks on pop punk? Any points we didn't get across? Any bands you want to shout out?
How do you guys
That
feel
was
about
pretty
Brand
Green
New?
Day. We stayed pretty focused on Green Day, so maybe circle back. You still probably have room for a pop punk.
Yeah.
Besides Green Day episode.
Would you guys want to come back on for pop punk?
Matt had a thought. Yeah, I would come back on.
Okay.
Maybe we could discuss this thought that Matt had, because Matt had a thought that there isn't that much of a difference between pop punk and punk.
Wait, I don't think that was it.
That was kind of how you said it. It was something like that. You said it was just like the recording quality.
Well, part of it is the record. I was looking at the difference between punk and pop punk, and I think some of that you can kind of hear like in the difference between like 39 Smooth and Blanc, where the recording quality gets a lot better. I do remember that conversation, Connor. I don't remember what my point was, so it's obviously not something I'm super passionate about.
Okay, well,
but we'll think of it. We'll think of it for the pop punk episode. If people, if Catso gets to 100,000 followers, we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll come back on for the 100K.
Ambitious but doable for sure.
What are you guys at? Like 96,000 right now?
Yeah, we'll have 100K by the end of the week.
We really plateaued at around 97,000.
Oh, well,
this could be it.
I'll repost it to my 39 followers.
Yeah, I think we got shadow banned, and that's what's preventing us from the last.
That's what happened.
All that Epstein. It's the Epstein talk. I'm telling you.
I know. Make sure you bleep out Epstein and Clinton.
You know, when you report something on Instagram, you have the options of like it's nudity or sexual activity or it's harmful or like false information or I just don't like it. I've been doing all of them kind of just in order. Yeah.
That's pretty pop punk rock of you as well. The sabotage.
It's so pop punk.
As a band.
I thought it'd be cool.
Okay, well, so this was just the Green Day episode. We'll circle back to pop punk one of these days. Guys, thanks so much for coming on. Hugely appreciate it. Matt, thanks for making your first appearance. One of many. Connor,
thanks for having me. I'll have a speech ready next time.
Thanks for not saying my opinions are trash and that I hate women. I really appreciate that.
This might be the hottest.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This might be the hottest take of the podcast. I thought Julian had some of the best opinions. So
wow, holy shit!
How about that?
I'm gonna let that go straight to my head.
All right, well,
everyone had a good.
Brace yourself next week, everyone, for a lot more of Julian's opinions.
All right, I can't wait.
Come wearing a crown and a robe.
Parting word. Fuck Elon Musk.
Fuck Elon Musk. Fuck Rick Beato.
Always will be fuck Elon Musk. Fuck Rick Beato. Fuck Morrissey.
Fuck the free world.
Fuck Oasis.
Free world.
Nice. Take it easy there, guy. I entered the ballot for Oasis tickets this morning, guys, for North America, so wish me luck.
I hope that you get them, and then I hope that they cancel the tour like 2 days before.
No.
That'd be the most Oasis experience to possibly have.
True.
Yeah, they don't do that much.
That sounds unlike them. I don't know where you're getting that from. Okay.
My fault. Must be thinking of someone else.
Thanks so much, guys. Good luck with your 3v3 game later.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
We're going to have a little 3v3 of our own.
Good luck with your rehearsal.
It's going to be way more sexual.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Well, who's to say ours isn't going to be sexual?
That's true. I just assumed because you guys are brothers and all, but I don't know how your family rocks.
That's a good point.
This is
all right.
California.
All right. Well,
it is. Yeah.
All right. Good luck, friends for Contra.
Holly weird.
Make sure you get that show scheduled.
Yeah,
the
we'll be in
Contra
touch. We'll be in touch
American
soon.
Idiot Show.
Oh
Get
yeah,
your
yeah.
people.
We better start practicing.
Yep. All right, we'll start rehearsal with horchata.
And make sure I get a little cut of that too.
All right, we have a lot of financial details to discuss
We owe
offline.
Connor a lot of money,
We'll do that
as it
soon.
turns out.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys. Love you. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Talk to you soon, guys.